Good evening. Happy Sunday. Listen, I hope you've had a great day. As promised, I am here and we're going to dive into some of this uh, debate over this Project 2025. We're also going to talk about Trump's Agenda 47. Okay. But before we dive into that, I do want to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoy the information that is being shared here, as I've stated in many videos, I am not here to persuade you to either party. My goal is to provide information to debunk lies, and let's get facts out, and let's share the truth so that people who are um, they're stuck, they are undecided on how to vote, who to vote for, all of this. They don't understand all of this. And so, because I've had people to ask me, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing my due diligence. And because I like to research, I love to read, I love all things history. So I'm just doing this. And because I'm a Bible teacher, it's important for me for us to connect everything that we do, especially those of us who are believers, everything that we do should tie back to scripture. Okay. And that's what we need to be doing. Not everybody is doing that now. But I'm going to tell you why this is so important for not just election time, but for every part of our life. For the believer, the word of God is supposed to be the final authority. And that can make us uncomfortable sometimes, but God did not call us to live comfortable lives, right? He himself did not have a comfortable life when he came from glory down to earth on a rugged cross to die for our raggedy selves, okay? But let me just share a little bit before we get into this. This is going to be in segments because there are specific areas in this video that I want to address. I'm going to do a screen share. I may share some video clips. I may just put the links in there. But I do want you to do your due diligence as well. I'm encouraging you to do that. Let me say this on the front end. I got quite a few notes. I want to say this on the front end before I get started. I encourage you to look at your candidate, look at both candidates, but look at your candidate, look at uh, their term, because both have already served, look at what they promised, and then look at what they accomplished. That will be one thing that will help you in making a decision. And then look at what was out of their control, because let's be honest here. We got executive, judicial, and legislative branches. There are some things the president cannot do alone. Okay. So again, what did they promise? What did they accomplish? And what was absolutely out of their control? Was this a candidate that continued to make promises after promises after promises? Was this a party that has continued to make promise after promise after promise, but never come through? That's it. That's the easiest way that I can tell you. Do your research. That's what I did. Um, and pray and ask God. Oftentimes we're trying to, and you hear church people say this, you hear pastors say this. Um, God and government go hand in hand, just like God and science go hand in hand. This is God's stuff. He created it. He gives us instructions, okay, on how government is supposed to work, how we are supposed to submit to government, and all of this, how we are supposed to pray for government, how we're supposed to pay our taxes, okay? And so pray, ask God to guide you on these things and to help you make the right decision. And as we're going through these, I'm going to add Bible references, verses, so that we can see and so that you're sound in your decision, because all of those have been important to me. I don't like to react out of emotions. I'm a logical thinker. I have to think and I have to process everything. every decision that I sometimes I overthink. Okay. And when I try not to overthink, I overthink that too. So I have to take a lot of things to the Lord in prayer, and I have to research so that I'm making logical decisions, not emotional decisions. Okay. So I got that part out of the way. Other thing, don't be biased in your research of your candidate. That's going to be really, really important, because when we're biased, we don't look at the perspective of both. And what we're seeing a lot here is there is a lot of investigation into one candidate's past and all of the things that he has said and he has done. Even in the interview that everybody has been talking about for the last couple of weeks, we can't be biased with the candidates, especially when you're interviewing a candidate. The same questions you ask one, you got to ask the other one. The same way you interrogate and investigate and dig up dirt on one candidate, you've got to do that for the other. You can't expose one and excuse the other. And so I'm encouraging you, look at your candidate and then just know all of these people got a pass. You and I, we have a pass. And so if I were to run for anything, you can best believe people are going to go and they're going to go start digging up my past. They're going to go and find whatever they can, and they will find things. Okay. Um, that's life. That's going to happen because in our stupidity, all of us have done things that we would now be ashamed of. Okay. My encouragement is just get it out there before the devil does. Um, and so, anyway, make sure that you do that, but be fair in your criticisms of the candidates. Don't hold one to a standard that you don't hold the other one to. Okay. And so I'll just share here a little bit. We're going to get into some screen share again. We're going to look at some items from Project 2025. We're going to look at Agenda 47, and we're just going to look at what I'm trying to do. My goal is to hit those areas first that we keep seeing in the news, that just the propaganda that just keeps getting pushed in our face, and things that are being said. And what I want to do in this video is provide you. I want us to go and so we can read for ourselves. We're intelligent people. We need to read for ourselves. And I want to show you receipts so that you don't have to keep being afraid of the race baiting, the hate baiting, the fear tactics that people are promoting. Okay. That's the whole goal here. But I want to say this, and this is just personal, and I won't say too much because this is not to sway anyone either way. But the process for me was gradual as I began to look more into politics. I've always voted. I voted in ignorance though, and I voted based on culture. Okay, things that I was told, that this is just what we do as a race of people. Um, and so, just some years ago, when I began to take voting more seriously and researching my candidates, I'm one of those people. Don't come to the voting poll when don't approach me at the voting poll. I don't want to hear you when my pastor allows you to come into the church. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I'm going to search a record, because you can get in the pulpit and say anything. When I'm out there at the voting poll, you can approach me and say anything. You have to earn my vote. You don't just get my vote because you come and pass out a bottle of water, or because you come up and talk about your relationship with the Lord. Where have you been before election time? What have you done before election time? That's what matters to me. Okay. And so when I got ready to start taking voting seriously and paying attention to things that were going on, it started impacting the way that I thought. When I began to understand that the Bible and world history connect, government connects with the Bible, nothing that we're seeing is new. We already know there's nothing new under the sun. So I started going back and I started looking at government. I started looking at politics in the Bible, the way things have, um, you know, uh, progressed throughout history with our government, all of that plays a role for me. I look at parties and I'm researching these parties and their history, their dirty history. And particularly there was one that I didn't like the things that I was learning about that history. Okay. And so, and I don't overlook that. I'm not overlooking anything on the basis of culture. I'm not uh I'm not loyal to a gender, okay? No, I'm not loyal to culture. I'm loyal to scripture, okay? Scriptural, not cultural. Saw that at Briar Chris. Way to go, Briar Chris. But I noticed when my views, my political views began to change, it began to change friendships, conversations, because I was going past the norm. And how could you trade on your people? What's wrong with you? Uh, and I'm a self thinker, you know, and so I'm not going to be persuaded. I won't be bullied, um, you know, by family or friends who think differently. But what I'm finding, and this is why this is probably more important to me than anything, what I'm finding, and many of you may be able to agree, is there seems to be this harsh bullying, especially for Black people, when you move from Democrat Party to Republican Party. And that's crazy. That's crazy. And that's what they call us. They call you, if you switch from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, you crazy and you have lost your mind. Uh, it's just like how white people used to get called bad names when they helped Black people during slavery. Okay, so now our people, Black people, are doing that to Black people who, for some reason, they think we're switched to the white party. This is about policies, though, for me. And for most of us, it's about policies more than it is a politician. Because if it was just based on a politician, I wouldn't be voting for anybody. But I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to use my right to vote. And it's important to me to do that with intelligence. Okay. And so that was just something that I wanted to share. And so um, it's never my intent to argue. I won't argue or fall out with people because of their political views, but I also won't be bullied. And I think it's important, just like with Christianity, I'm a Christian. I can have conversations with people who are not Christian and who don't believe what I believe. And we're not going to disrespect each other. Okay. Same thing with politics. If you still choose to remain whatever your political party is, then that's fine, but don't attack me because I decided to switch parties. That's my personal view. When I go to cast my ballot, I go up there by myself. I don't take anybody else up there with me, unless it's my grandbaby who I'm teaching how to vote as well. But I wanted to share that because you may be a person, you're dealing with that pressure. You're dealing with that pressure from your family, or you're dealing with that pressure from your friends, and maybe you're even afraid, you know, to share, you know, that you're considering switching parties, or you're afraid to even ask questions, uh, you know, about things that you're hearing, all of the things that you're seeing, because I mean, this stuff is out here in our faces. And so some of what we're seeing is not true. And truth matters. Okay. And so without further ado, we're going to look here for this particular video here tonight. Again, I have to break this up because Project 2025 is a 922-page document broken down into 5 sections, written by different people, different think tankers. I want to say this first. I need to share this history. This is so important. The Biden Harris administration is using scare tactics. And I'm just going to say this because that's what it is. They are using scare tactics with Project 2025 as propaganda to scare people, particularly people of brown skin color. And they give you bits and pieces of this agenda to scare you and make you afraid. We're going to dive into that, okay? Because once I started researching, I'm going, no, that's not what that's saying. That's not what that's talking about. And it's tragic to me that when you hear this at these rallies, when you hear this in these interviews, well, I don't want to say interviews because Kamala really has not done uh, interviews on policies. Um, yeah, I tried to find her policies. I haven't found those yet. We're waiting on those, and we're waiting on her to be able to literally answer questions. Uh, but we're going to hit some of those that are really, really pressing, like uh, civil rights. I've been hearing people say they're trying to take our civil rights. They're trying to take us back to Jim Crow. Um, um, they're getting rid of the Department of Education. Um, they're doing this. They're messing with the veterans' benefits, and the propaganda is to pit the American people against Donald Trump by attaching the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, to Trump. And then, this propaganda with these few things that they're highlighting. And so I want to share this with you. Heritage Foundation has been around for a long, long time. Okay. And Heritage Foundation's projects are simply proposals that are presented to the incoming administration, and often it's the conservative administration. However, some of their proposals and their ideologies and their proposals have been used by the left. Okay, go do your history. Heritage Foundation goes back even past Ronald Reagan, who used some of their proposals. The president can adopt some of their proposals or their ideologies. Some don't have to. For instance, the Affordable Care Act, which we know as Obamacare, okay? That was a proposal in the Heritage Foundation when Obama took office. There are so many others. Go and do the research, but don't get caught up in all of this fear tactics, and sending people into anxiety and tangies, where, oh, they're trying to get rid of the education. Oh, they're trying to take us back to slavery. They're not. They are not. And Trump is not trying to do that. Once we finish this, and if the Lord allows, we're going to go through this until I can completely, some of this I'm still studying, still reading on some of this, which is why I want to highlight the ones that they keep pushing and forcing in your face to cause you fear. Okay. But as long until election time comes, if the Lord allows me to, I'm going to keep on sharing, and I'm going to pull up receipts. And if you watch my videos and you follow me, you're going to see receipts, because I am a huge fan of facts. I want to see the facts. I don't want to be deceived. And so with as much as I can, when we go through these, we're going to hit these. I would love to do a PowerPoint, but I will say this, I was attempting. I've gotten in so much trouble on Facebook. I don't want this YouTube platform to get me in trouble. And so because I haven't learned all of their rules, I don't want to do things that could get me banned, if you will. So I'm going to do this the best way that I can and provide this information. So let's go here. We're going to go let me see. Okay, we're going to start here. Let me see if I can get some stuff out of the way. We don't need that. Okay, this is what we need. If my mouse will act right. Okay. So we're going to look at this. This is Project 2025. This is what all the commotion is about. This is Heritage Foundation, the Presidential Transition Project. Okay. And I have specifics, again, 922 pages. And you have 5 sections, and each section and each item has a specific person who wrote the proposal here. And so for us tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to look at let me see, Department of Education. I want to go here first because this is the one that is being used to scare the bejesus out of people. Okay, and see here, this is 44 pages of this. And what I believe I have done is highlighted. Let me see where my pages are. Okay, we're going back up. And I will encourage you, even if you're not a reader, just you can pull this up. It's here on the internet. You can pull this up on the internet, go to the section that concerns you the most, and click on that particular thing and just read through it. Department of Education, here we are. And I think that's Department of Defense. This one is, let me see. This one is Department of Education. So one of the main things that the media is promoting is that Project 2025 is getting rid of the Department of Education. They're taking away food from poor students, all of this. And so I won't read all of this, but I will just kind of summarize it. This particular, I got my specific areas that I'm going to address highlighted here, okay? But this is page 320. And this is pretty much talking about the history of the Department of Education, how it came into be, and under former President Lyndon B. Johnson, Civil Rights Act of 1964, okay? And how the war on poverty was a part of this, okay? This particular part is addressing how much funds have been poured into the school system since that time. Those charts at the bottom, those statistics are a part of this. And so we're looking at spending on ESEA and the HEA. Part of Johnson's war on poverty grew exponentially in the years that followed. By fiscal year 2022, ESEA programs received $27.7 billion in appropriations, in addition to $190 billion that came through the pandemic's elementary and secondary schools emergency relief funds. Okay. And there's some more stuff in there. And that, again, that's talking about starting with their history and what Lyndon B. Johnson's um, act was for when it came to the Department of Education, and how the government has overstepped um, its position. But this is where I want to get to: advancing education freedoms. And this is what Project 2025, and then we're going to go to Trump's agenda 47. Empowering families. This is what the Project 2025 says here, okay? Advancing education freedoms. Pretty much, this is putting freedom into parents' hands, taking the government off of this and saying to the parents, you take the power back and you choose where you want your children to go. And see, this is the thing that concerns me, is because the scare tactic is, oh, Trump is going to do this. The Republicans are trying to do this. And often the scare tactics that they're using is what they're actually doing. This is giving freedom to the American people and taking so much of the control from the government, which is actually what the Democratic Party is doing. So the fear is, oh, they're taking control and they want to control this. No, if you look at this, and we're going to go through these, and it's interesting to me because they're saying that Trump wants to do this, or Project 2025 wants to do this, or the Republicans want to do this. And in actuality, you got to think about this. Everybody is being, by the liberals, the Democratic Party, everybody is being forced to accept whatever curriculums are put in our schools. This gender thing with these babies. Whether you are a parent and you want your child to be taught this, whether you're a teacher, even if you're not a Christian teacher, but whether you are a teacher who thinks that this is crazy and shouldn't be taught in school, it doesn't matter. You have to. And further down, if you continue reading this all the way through, you will see that those who refuse to talk about transgender, sex change to these babies, planting seeds in their heads for them to desire to have their bodies transformed, for them to dictate these pronouns that they're going to be. Anybody who does not support that, they lose funding, okay? Including churches. And it's interesting because when I read this further down, I saw someone saying that people have been saying that Trump is going to take away food, the food program from our children. When you read this, it's the actual opposite. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has stated that they will take funds away from schools who do not support same-sex, transgender, and that don't teach. And I'm actually going to go to it because, again, I want you to see this for yourself. This is talking about advancing educational freedom, okay? Giving the parents the power back, providing education choice for federal children. And this is for the District of Columbia and military families, restoring state and local control over education funding. So putting things back into the hands of the state. As Washington begins to downsize its intervention in education, existing funding should be sent to states as grants over which they have full control, enabling states to put federal funding toward any lawful education purpose under state law. Treating taxpayers like investors in federal student aid. Taxpayers should expect their investments in higher education to generate economic productivity. When the federal government lends money to individuals for a post-secondary education, taxpayers should expect those borrowers to repay. Now, here's something I really wanted to talk about, this part right here. If you're a person who thinks it's okay for us to go out and create debt, secondary education, going to college, and we sign, we get these FAFSA loans and all of this, and we create that debt, and then I'm just going to say it, the Biden administration comes along and says, oh, we're going to have this debt forgiveness plan. And then this is something that is repeated. It's one of my, it may be when I go to the Trump Agenda 47, but it talks about, I believe, $700 million that the Biden administration, excuse me, is just forgiving all of this debt. And I'm thinking that we're not thinking, because we're creating that debt to go on and get our education, to get these degrees and all of this. And then when it's time to pay back, we don't want to pay. And when the government bails us out of that, that's enabling us to be irresponsible. We got to look at it for what it is. I know some of us, especially in the Christian world, we look at God. Won't he do it? Won't he make a way? The Bible doesn't teach us to be irresponsible. And we seriously need to stop that. And somebody is paying for all of this stuff. That was something else I had on my notes somewhere. When we look at all of this stuff that the liberals are promoting, oh, and we're going to give you this and we're going to give you this, and that stuff is not free. Somebody is paying for that stuff, and that's often us taxpayers, but we're not looking at that when everything is going up. That's because of this excessive spending. Nobody is managing. Go and look at what our the American debt is. And I was reading the other day an article that was saying there is no way America is going to be able to pay all of this debt back. We're talking about close to $40 trillion in debt. Okay. And so if we're continue spending, it's just like our household financials. If you continue spending and spending and spending and creating more debt, eventually something is going to happen. Okay. This stuff is costing somebody, and that's often us taxpayers. So it concerns me when I keep hearing a Kamala Harris talk about all this spending that she's going to do. And let's be real. I know people don't like to hear Trump or anybody say, in our household, wives don't like to hear husbands say, hey, we got to cut back. Children don't like to hear parents say, hey, we got to cut back. But that's being financially astute. Okay. And so, yeah, sometimes you got to cut back on some things so that you can do other things with it. And then there are sometimes you just got to allocate money from different places. If money is not working here, why are we constantly putting it here? Let's move that money somewhere else to make better use of it. Let me move on. Protecting the federal student loans. I went over there. Safeguarding civil rights. Now, here is the one. People swear, oh, they trying to send us back to Jim Crow and they're going to take away our civil rights. Enforcement of civil rights should be based on a proper understanding of those laws, rejecting gender ideology and critical race theory. Okay. I have a video. I'm gonna put the video link in the description once this video is posted. Real brief, because just what during COVID, I think after George Floyd, everybody was going crazy with this critical race theory, and we're making critical race theory. It's important, but we're making it something that it should not be. I'm not saying that it's not important, but we shouldn't be making it something that it's not. It's just like with civil rights. We understand the whole civil rights movement and things that Dr. King got a video coming up on that too. But things that Dr. King and that whole movement pushed for, right? But what we're seeing now is now you just taking everything, put it under the umbrella. We got civil rights, and then, oh, well, let's take women's rights and put it over here, a woman's right to her own body. Oh, let's take transgender. Let's put that over here under this. We're making everything now about civil rights, civil rights. And what that does is just say somebody like me, if I don't support same-sex marriage, or if I don't support a woman's right to abort a human growing on the inside of her, then I must be against civil rights. No, y'all not gonna, you're not gonna do that one to me. You're not gonna get away with that one with me. And Black Lives Matter. All of this stuff is being put up under here. And so you got to look at this. Again, the propaganda is to make you feel like if you don't support this, then you're a racist. If you don't support this, oh, you're against women. No, no. This is saying we not, all of this stuff don't belong under here. But we're gonna attach it to it because everybody wants civil rights, right? We all want to support that. Yeah, we do. We just don't need you putting all this other foolish stuff, attaching it to it. Federal interventions in education has failed to promote student achievement after trillions spent since 1965 on the collective programs now housed within the walls of the department. Student academic outcomes remain stagnant. And this is simply talking about from that time when all of this was implemented, all of this money being poured into our education system. When you look at our children, these statistics, they give statistics from kindergarten through third grade, fourth through eighth grade, and it is staggering to see how our children, if you scroll on down, you will see these charts, how our children, when it comes to reading and math, are still not where they should be. Something is happening and something has to be changed. I'm not against that. Something has to change. You can't keep doing the same thing. Program and office prioritization within the department, reduce the number of programs managed by OESE and transfer some remaining programs to other federal agencies. So for the most part, continuing on down here, this is talking about not getting rid of, but transferring it from government to another department. Let me see what else I had down here before I go to the next one, because I have a lot. Funding institutions should block granted. There was another one. Where is my paper? Let me see where my highlights are. Okay. Office for Civil Rights, OCR, should move to the Department of Justice. The federal government has an essential responsibility to enforce civil rights protections, but Washington should do so through the Department of Justice and federal courts. The OCR at DOJ should be able to enforce only through litigation. I want to come down here because I want to talk about this one. On December 13, 2021, OCR published a notice concerning proposed revisions to OCR's mandatory civil rights data collection, in which it proposed to create and collect data on a new non-binary sex category. In addition to the current male or female sex categories, and to retire data collection that indicates the number of high school level interscholastic athlete sports in which only male and female students participate. We just saw this foolishness with the Olympics, with this boxing. Yeah, this, I don't see why we don't see the danger of men being in women's sports. You going in women's restroom with our little girl. I don't see how we don't see something wrong with that. I just don't. But y'all calling it civil rights, so I guess that's why y'all see it as okay. High school level athlete teams in which only male or female students participate, and participants on high school level interscholastic athlete sports teams in which only male or only female students participate. These poorly conceived changes are contrary to law, fail to take account of student privacy, interest, and statutory protections favoring parental rights under the protection of Pupils' Rights Amendment, and jettison longstanding data. Okay, that's a problem for me when we're okay with uh born by birth males are able to compete and be in the locker rooms uh with our girls, with all the sex trafficking and okay. Activities receiving federal assistance, is this one? Okay, with its notice and proposed rulemaking published on July 12, 2022, the Biden Education Department seeks to gut the hard-earned rights of women with its changes to the department regulations implementing Title IX, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex and educational programs and activities. Trying to see if that's the one I wanted. The Biden administration has sought to trample women's and girls' athletic opportunities and due process on campus, threaten freedom of speech and religious liberty, and erode parental rights in elementary and secondary educations. Parents should have the rights and have a say-so in all of this. Then here's this sexual orientation that I just talked about. Now, this is what I want to get to here, and then we're going to go to the next one. Let me see. Okay, here we are. At the same time, there is no scientific or legal basis for redefining sex to sexual orientation and gender identity in Title IX. Such a change misrepresents the U.S. Supreme Court's opinion in Bostock, threatens the American system of federalism, removes important due process protections for students in higher education, and puts girls and women in danger of physical harm. But it's interesting to me because women want rights so bad that we will support a party that promotes this. But then when something happens to us, why are we complaining? We're getting what we're voting for. We're getting what we are supporting. This is crazy. Research has demonstrated positive effects and long-term outcomes of these treatments, and the unintended side effects are still not fully understood. Okay. This is so much. Trying to get to the one. Let me see, 338. Let me go to 338. Okay. Okay, here we go with the meal. That's what I wanted to get to, and we're going to push on. Provide school meals to children in need. Do not use federal meals to support radical ideology. Okay? This is what this says. Not what you're hearing out there in the media. In May 2022, the U.S. Department of Agriculture tried to advance a radical political agenda using the federal school meal program Nearly a century ago, federal lawmakers adopted the National School Lunch Program, NSLP, and School Breakfast Program, and other services that provide meals for K-12 students to give children from low-income families access to food while at school. And I don't know if many of you know this. It used to be based on a parent's income, and then it went to across the board. And many of our schools across the board, every lunch is free for everybody. Okay. Let me see. Since the 1940s, federal lawmakers have greatly expanded these meal programs, creating an entitlement for nearly all students, regardless of family income levels, and have turned the meal program into some of the most wasteful federal programs in Washington. Now, the USDA is threatening to withhold federal taxpayer spending for these meals from schools that do not implement Title IX of the Education Amendment of 1972, so that the term sex is replaced with sexual orientation and gender identity. That should not matter. Our babies have to eat. And there are those who can't, families who honestly can't afford the meals. I'm a product of Memphis City Schools free lunch because I grew up with a mom who was getting government assistance, okay? And had to get it for myself for a while as a young, ill-prepared mother. Okay, so now we got that one, and I'm going to now go to Trump. Let me see. I'm going to go to Trump, and I'm going to come back because I don't want the video to be long. Don't want to put anybody to sleep. Okay, this is Agenda 47. Okay. And here you have these 20 items listed here. And if you go here, you can click here, or if you go down here and you click 16 pages, this is Trump's plan. So while the Democrat Party keeps trying to merge them together, because Trump does know some of these people, because they were people that were a part of his first term, 2016 to 2020, and they provide ideologies. Trump himself is not for everything that Project 2025 is presenting, but again, presidents do not have to take those proposals, and we need to know there's a difference. These Project 2025 are proposals. They are not laws. Okay, so let's look at Trump. He has these 16 pages, and he outlines what each of these, his plans for each of these. And I have read them. For the most part, I'm in agreement. Let's just go through here. Rein in wasteful federal spending. I'm in agreement with that. I would be in agreement with that for my own household. So yes, I would be, if government is, because that's going to hurt taxpayers. When government is wasteful, it hurts taxpayers. Okay. Republicans will immediately stabilize the economy by slashing wasteful government spending and promoting economic growth. I'm for that. Cut costs on burdensome regulations. Republicans will reinstate President Trump's deregulation policies, which saved Americans $11,000 per household, and end Democrats' regulatory onslaught that disproportionately harms low and middle income households. And see, for the most part, we're not even paying attention how a lot of what's being done is harming us. And I'm talking about us as Black people in this country. I mean, one of the things for me, in 60 years since Lyndon B. Johnson signed this Welfare Act, all of this stuff, How have Black people as a whole, how have they succeeded? Now, there are those who have made it out and they've gotten out and they've become successful. But as a race of people, since then, because before Civil War and all of that, even though you had slavery, Black families stuck together. When the welfare system came into play, that broke up the Black family because the government offers you money, but that man can't be there. And then the man is gone. They're going to send, that's a whole nother video. Let me not get, but yeah, our government, that was really key for me to look at what the Democratic Party has done to Black people all of these years, and election year after election year, Black people are standing big in Big Daddy government for more money. What you gonna do for us? What, keep on giving you more welfare? That's all. It's just gonna keep giving you, more welfare, more food stamps. And I know, I understand families needed that. I've been in that boat. But that's all they're gonna do for you. You check the history. You check the history and see what have they actually done in the past 60 years that's deserving of your loyalty and your vote. Okay. Stop illegal immigration. Republicans will secure the border because they are unsecured. They are so unsecured right now. Deport illegal aliens and reverse the Democrats' open borders policy that have driven up the cost of housing, education, and healthcare for American families. This is another thing that is hurting brown people. We've been seeing it in the news. In these sanctuary cities, the borders are not protected. You got people coming over here who are criminals, murderers. And Trump is basically in another one of his articles that break this down more in depth. It talks about, he's not saying that immigrants can't come to this country. What Trump is saying is you're going to do it legally. You're going to do it legally. And Biden is trying to push that, oh, he's separating parents from their children. No, you have to come over here legally. And if you come to this country, you got to do it the right way. And you don't bring immigrants into the country and provide better, give better provisions to them than you do your own citizens. They don't have to pay taxes. And they're fleeing their countries to be over here for better living. But have you ever wondered how often they keep going back over there? So if I'm fleeing somewhere that's not safe for me, I'm not trying to go back. Me personally, I'm not. So yeah, I'm for that. Let me see. Secure the border. Here again, he's talking about, and see here, this is what's a concern to me. If Trump gets in office and he does this, there's so many people over here now. There are millions of illegal immigrants who have been brought over here, who have been given all of this money, who have been given housing, who have been given jobs, who have been come in just like that, and they got the right to vote now. They're going to be able to vote in this election. See, the Democrats knew what they were doing, not protecting those borders, okay? Biden even said it when he first came into office that he was going to do this, get all of these people come over here. But should Trump try to make these people leave, it's going to be sad because he's talking about bringing the military home to protect our borders instead of having them over here and stuff that ain't, that they don't have to be in. You need them here to protect our borders. Okay. Enforce immigration laws. That's necessary. And then sometimes you get people who want to come to America, the land of the free, home of the brave. But then when they get over here, they hate this country. And so why would you want to be in a place that you hate? if you hate it here, why did you come here? Yeah, and then a lot of we're not understanding, especially those of us who are professing to be Christians, right? Much of what is happening that we either aren't seeing or we're just plain old ignoring, turning our heads. Much of what is happening is the Democratic Party is taking away the rights of Christians. They want us to synchronize and go along with it. And many of our churches are doing it. Our pastors are promoting all of these things under the guise of civil rights. So your rights as a Christian are being taken, but it will not matter to you if you're a casual Christian anyway. If you're a committed Christian, this stuff bothers you and this stuff matters to committed Christians. But if you're casual, you're worldly, so and you're secular. So this stuff doesn't you having your rights taken away from you as a Christian does not. Your freedom of speech, your freedom of religion. Everybody else has the freedom of their religion, but Christians cannot proselytize. We can't do what Jesus left on record for the church to do. Because if you do, then that's hate. That's a hate crime. Okay. Secure the borders, enforce immigration laws, begin largest deportation, stop these sanctuary cities from allowing them to come in and getting funding, putting American workers first. You got people over here and they have fabricated these unemployment numbers. There are people in this country who do not have jobs. There are people in this country who struggle to make ends meet. And if you saw the numbers of the income that's being given to these immigrants, you pass out on the floor. Make Trump tax cuts permanent and no tax on tips. I'm pretty sure people, especially in the hospitality and restaurants, would be so glad for this. Let me see. I'm trying to get to specific ones. Housing affordability. Okay. We see how the housing market is looking right now. People you either can't buy a home now or you get one and you can barely afford it. We can barely afford food. We can barely afford gas right now with the way that things are. Okay. And accessible higher education. To reduce the cost of higher education, Republicans will support the creation of additional, drastically more affordable alternatives to a traditional four-year college degree. So alternatives. Some colleges not for everybody, but people can go to technical schools. Affordable health care. You think about it. Yes, we got Obamacare, but here's the thing. If people are not able to make decent wages, now that's something I would really love to see on a policy for somebody. I think Trump has it at $15 for federal, I think it's federal employees. We're going to get to it though. It's on one of my sheets here. But many jobs, I remember onboarding employees and they had to wait their 90 days to get their insurance. They were making $14 an hour. Some of them were not, some of them only worked enough hours because the government required it for them to stay on government assistance. And then some of them, they just could not come to work for whatever reason. Some started out because of the stimulus checks, but it was hard for people to be able to afford to pay their bills and afford insurance. So they had to make a decision. Do you get health care or do you go without health care and not go to the doctor? Because even with Obamacare, if you're not making money, yeah, your job offered you a health care plan, but you just can't afford it. Okay. And some of these places are astronomically high. Okay, I know this because I had to onboard employees and they came to me with these questions. And so, yeah, it was a bit crazy. So for tonight, I don't know how long I've been on here, but I try to keep these under an hour. But we have plenty other of these. We got we did the Department of Education. We're going to do the Department of Defense, Department of Veteran Affairs, Executive Office. All of these, we're going to go through these. And so let me go back here. Let me go back here. Let me see what else I can hit real quick on. Oh, yeah. Trump does. He talks about crime, putting criminals back in prison, locking people up for the crimes that they're committing. Everybody, America is crying now about how high crime is, how criminals are going through, police are either catching them, locking them up, or they can't catch them, and crime is out of control, just like the border is out of control. And Trump is saying he's going to lock these people up. Drug cartels, gang violence, violent offenders. We're seeing people now walk around. We're seeing people who are murdering folk, and they're being put right back out on the streets. They're dangerous to our city, and American citizens are tired. Then they want to take your guns from law-abiding citizens. I'm a gun carrier lawfully. So you want to take my weapons, but the people out here on the street committing crimes, they still get to keep theirs. That's my Second Amendment right to bear arms. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, and then when they talk about how Washington D.C., how everything looks so deplorable around the White House, it's a shame the way that it looks right now. Why isn't that being cleaned up by the current administration? Why did it get that bad? Why are there homeless people all over the place? And Trump talks about that too. We're going to get into that. Trying to see, keep men out of women's sports. So we saw that with Project 2025 again. That's why I said some things Trump already has on his agenda that Project 2025 was proposing to him. So we got a lot that we're going to cover. Excuse me. And so that's what we're going to do with our time here. And let me stop sharing my screen. I hope that a lot of this was helpful to you all. I know it was a lot, and it needs to be a lot because there's a lot that is being said. And so if you're like me, you want to know the truth. You don't want to keep being presented with all of these scare tactics and all of that. You want to get the facts. You want to see. And as I stated, with that Department of Education, what's being put out there in the media is not what this is saying. And you see people in law, fighting in Congress and all of this stuff. And when you hear it, if you don't go look at it, you will get scared. You will get anxiety and be wondering, no, no, no. And that's what they want. Because and I'll say this, and then I'm gonna close this out, I believe. No, I'm not. I have a scripture. um, excuse me. When people know that you're not gonna read, they can tell you anything. And that's what a lot of us do. They when people start sending this out, half of them had not read. They looked at the heading. That's all they did. He looked at the heading. They had not read this entire packet. Okay. They just started throwing stuff out there and reading into it what they wanted to read into it. And I was just like, no, no. I had family and friends that shared it with me. And I initially had not heard of it because I have studied Agenda 2030. Y'all not focused on that one though. Y'all need to be concerned about Agenda 2030. Okay. If the Lord allows, we will go there. Okay. Um, but yeah, I wanted to close out with this scripture. And this is First Corinthians 6. And this is an important scripture that I think we need to uh, pay attention to. And it's in First Corinthians 6 and 12. And it talks about basically just because you have a right to do something, just because somebody makes something a law, doesn't mean you should do it. It doesn't mean it's beneficial to you. Okay. There are a lot of things that, when you become uh, of age, you can drink. Does it mean you should drink? No, not if you know you can't handle your alcohol. You could have sex if you want to outside of marriage, but should you? Okay. Because we're going to get into that when we go into talking about some of these, we start talking about poverty. We're going to talk about poverty in the pews. And we're going to talk about that because a lot of the problem is we're doing all of this stuff that's being promoted, um, you know, through this administration here. And we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we have if, and I'm going to say both parties, because I'm not going to paint the Republican Party like they're a perfect party. Absolutely not. America, people in the world would not have some of the problems that we have if we didn't have this mindset that, oh, well, it's a law, I can do it. It's legal for me to do it. It's legal for you to smoke marijuana, but should you? If you know that your job is not going to allow you to come on there and come in their company and work under the influence of marijuana, and just because it's legal in one state, you think you can go all over the United States with it? Come on. We've got to do better than that. But I will leave you with that and pray that this has helped you. And again, as I stated in the beginning, to encourage you to make sure that you go and you research your candidate, the policies, the party, research the history, and just simply ask yourself, okay, I heard what Marie was saying, but based on my views, my values, my morals, this party is better for me. And then you stick with what your decision is. Don't be persuaded. Don't let somebody convince you. If that's what you, if you're for Kamala, after you've researched her, be for Kamala. But don't be mad at everybody who ain't for her, because she ain't for everybody. Okay. We need a president that's for everybody. Everybody. It's just like this. I gotta say this because this came up the other day. Somebody made a video and they were saying about Trump. They don't believe Trump is a real Christian. And does he understand what it means to be a Christian? You got a lot of pastors that don't know what it really means to be a Christian. I'm not going to hold a politician to a higher standard than someone who says that God called them to be a pastor and they don't understand what it means to be a Christian. But here's the thing. Israel had leaders. They had kings who were bad kings and they had good kings. And I'm talking about before the kingdom split, because when the kingdom split, we know the northern kingdom had all bad kings, but the southern kingdom, Judah, they had good kings and they had bad kings. And God had already told them what the kings were going to do. They wanted a government to rule them. And so that's what he gave them. But I'm not voting for Trump based on his level of knowledge being a Christian. King Cyrus was not a Christian, but he helped God's people. Nebuchadnezzar was not a Christian, but he helped God's people. Okay. So I'm not basing my candidate's uh, religious affiliation, if you will, uh, or his level of knowledge, if you will. Um, I'm not voting for that. What are your policies? If your policies align with my views, then that's the candidate that I'm choosing. And I I'm looking at, yeah, these are things that if I go look in the past, um, I honestly have to admit, when I look at the past, and this is again, this is for me, this is how I based everything. Trump was loved by many of these people. Go back and do the research. He was loved by so many of these people who are now dragging him until he became president. And I am convinced that when Trump was going to all these presidential events and he was sitting in there and these people had Trump in their homes and they're in his hotels, these people love Trump. I'm convinced that Trump has enough information on these people. They know it is better to take him down, keep him out of the White House or take him down. But we cannot let him get back in there, because how does somebody go from being loved and admired and then completely hated? And people actually believe everything that they now say about him when he ran for president. That's all I got to say. I pray that you have a great, great, great week coming up this week. And I may do some of these just not as long, now that I've introduced it, but I may just sporadically, post some of these. I don't go live yet. I don't have enough uh, uh, I don't have enough subs, as my daughters told me. I don't have enough to go live on TikTok and on YouTube. The posting or going live and not nobody is there. I just may as well record. And so that's what I'm going to do for now until God enlarges the territory of my YouTube or social media platform, I guess I should say. But I pray again that you have a great week. Don't go fighting with people. Come on, guys. It's not that serious. It's not that serious. We may not agree on our politics. We may not agree on our religions. But come on, we don't have to fight um, with people. Okay. All right. Till next time. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.